Counselor Accents Podcast. Two school counselors who love their jobs. Oh, and they happen to have Southern accents too. Bless their hearts.
I'm Laura Rankhorn.
And I'm Karen Crumley, and together we are Counselor Accents. And I want to apologize for saying, let's rock and roll before we got started. That was creepy, and it was so, when an old person yells it out, it's just, maybe that's like that Woodward yell it out. Let's rock and roll. Yeah.
I have secondhand embarrassment for you, so I am glad that you acknowledged the elephant in the room. That was embarrassing.
Speaking of elephant in the room, I would like to go ahead and acknowledge the Tennessee win.
Wish that I was on Rocky Top.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I want to get this over with because it is extremely painful.
I am on cloud nine.
You are on a Rocky Mountain high, if you will.
I am. When you said rock and roll, I stopped at rock because all I heard was Rocky Top.
Oh boy, and it begins.
You've had 15 years to do this, so please.
Yes, this is what happens when you're on top. You get comfortable, and you just have so much faith in Saint Nick, and but seeing those poor Tennessee fans be happy, I'm glad he did it. I feel like he gave it away, and I just bless his heart. Bless him, Lord.
For those of you that are not in the Southeast or did not realize that Knoxville registered on the seismograph last night, did you know that? Did you know that?
You promise? Is that true?
I promise you. I can send you the report. But anyway, if you are not in the Southeast, then you may not know that the University of Alabama, which Kim is a fan of, and the University of Tennessee, which I am a fan of, went head-to-head last night.
Yes.
And this is a long-time rivalry on the Tennessee side. I don't know that Alabama has any rivals because you guys have just been on top for so long that it's just another game for you. But it's for us,
another game. And up from the dead heroes. And there it was.
Yes. This is one of the ones, Alabama and Florida are the two that Tennessee fans, we want to win these every year. So for 15 years, Alabama has won this rivalry. And last night, it came down to the last 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
And a field goal.
Yep. And I always feel so for the field goal. Either team.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
I cannot stand for that child to stand out there.
Yeah.
I just have that mama's heart. Either way. And the win or loss is hanging in the balance. And sadly, it was the Alabama's field goal kicker that missed that kick.
From a very long distance, though. It
was a very far distance. But anyway, it was an exciting game, and I just have to, I'm not a sore loser. I'm not a sore loser. So I just want you to know there was a lot of people in the altar at church this morning.
As there were Tennessee fans, because a lot of promises were made to God in those last 2 seconds.
Oh, and I saw it. I was watching it. There were so many prayers. Tennessee fans will be getting their lives right. Yeah. So, yes. And if y'all remember, Laura is from Tennessee. And so, but I feel like it is my second home. So I do not allow her to sing Rocky Top without me because I'm only 2-hour drive from Tennessee. And so there. So we've got the elephant, which is the mascot of the.
Yeah, I don't appreciate that. I've got to I will be sending you these videos about how Alabama and Tennessee came up with their mascots. I was laughing so hard because they don't make sense. The Volunteers, the Crimson Tide with an elephant, and the Volunteers with a smoky dog. They don't make sense, but I'm going to send it to you.
I can make the Tennessee dog. I can make that work. I mean, because you're in the Smoky Mountains, you got hunting dogs, you got Smoky Mountains, the Volunteers who went to Texas to save the Alamo. I can make all that sense.
Okay.
The Crimson Tide elephant thing, though, I can't make any sense of. But anyway, whatever. Okay, Laura, I will
Moving
have to
on.
say that before we get started with business, I will have to say that I am wearing, which is my favorite outfit of choice, which you may not can tell is the jumper, which
You look adorable.
you know how I am with the jumper. I love a good jumper. I will wear a jumper at any junction of my life. The problem with the jumper is the bathroom.
Oh, always. Yes. It is a two-person ordeal when you wear a
It is
jumper.
a two-person ordeal. Well, my family's in the car, and we're headed to church, and I have to go back in really quick to use the bathroom one more time. So I run in, use the bathroom, run into the church, sit down in a pew, and I feel this lady crawling over pews to get to me because I had not zipped back up the
Oh
jumper.
boy.
And
Oh boy.
my husband can see. So the jumper was unzipped, and as we speak now, I hate to be crass, but it has been several hours since I have used the bathroom because my husband is gone, and Clinton, God love him, has tried to help me get this jumper off, and he cannot. So I
Special
am
needs son, for those of you that
my
may not know.
special needs son, who is 3 feet off the ground and deaf and has one eye that looks, tried to get the jumper off of me, and he can't. And so I'm
Bless.
stuck in this jumper. I'm
Okay,
stuck.
well, if you have to leave for a minute and come back naked, I will not put the YouTube version up.
Trying to get it off without unzipping it. I'm going to go right into this lesson. That is so funny. It's not a lesson. It's a podcast. We're going right into this podcast, and we're going to do one of our things that we've done before, and it's just where we're going to bring up some topics that have been topics of discussion with other people. This is like our favorite thing to do, is just kind of chew over questions and things that other counselors are going through.
Well,
So
may I
Yeah.
say it's what you and I do for each other. You know, I call you and say, okay, I've got a situation. You call me and say, hey, I've got a situation. And it just helps to have another head, like-minded, to just sort of problem solve through it. And so we feel like our
are
audience,
not like-minded. Sometimes the difference
or
is
exactly,
the way we see things. And what do I always say? We always kind of end it with, but you could talk me into it.
yeah,
Because we're really willing to listen to the other side.
we may have our opinion, but
Yeah,
we're not, you know, we can see the other way. And I think that's a counselor thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it needs to be, it's that growth mindset, because you think you know something until I can see where you're coming from with
Yeah.
that. So we're gonna go right in, and may I start off with the first topic, which is
Please.
a doozy. And when I read this, but I've read several, but when I read this one especially, it's dealing with girl drama.
Oh boy.
But the thing is, when you're dealing with girl drama, is you're getting the report often from the ringleader of the girl drama.
Yes.
It's
good
like they're
point.
in it. It's like this circle of girl drama, and they, and so I will say that I didn't. I can't give myself credit for speaking to this, because this was a lesson that was part of what my system did for Jamari T. Williams, the law that we do.
Mhm.
And we talk about that frenemy. And so we really got into, I was able to really talk to those kids about, and they know what you're talking about. It's really hard for them not to start looking pointedly at the person that you're describing. But I think it's very important that you do a lesson with your students where you're talking about that frenemy, and we often say it's girls, but it can be boys too. That person that makes you feel you like being around them, often popular. They often kind of have the crowd that follows them, but they make you feel worse. They often make you feel worse more than better. So I think it's very important that we as school counselors call this what it is, because some students, it's always been, as long as I've been a counselor, but they don't have a name for it. They don't. I think giving them knowledge about what this is the first step. Whether they can break away from it is the next step. And then having very real conversations with the parents. That's the hard part, because oftentimes the parents are buying into what their precious child is saying, but they're not seeing the whole story.
My first thing is, if somebody tells me my children are involved in something, then I'm beating their tails before I get the full story from them. Like they're guilty until proven innocent at my house. But not everybody's like that. And the longer I work in education, the more I realize that we're the minority, those of us that do that.
Well, and let me just say, you can have the evidence before them, and it's still not their fault. I've
You're
never
right.
seen. It's just getting so. It's just getting beyond ridiculous, and this is my favorite thing I'm saying because I've been in this so long. As I say, I have been on the high school end of this, and I'm just trying to help you. I've got no dog in this fight other than to help your child and to help you because, I'm being as honest as I can, and either you take it or you don't, but you will deal with it. I will cease dealing with it eventually. You will not cease dealing with it. I think a lot of times they already kind of know and they're nervous about that anyway, so they're willing to listen. What's the book that we use with this? I always have to ask you the name of the book.
My Secret Bully.
My Secret Bully is I think my kids remember that story. I try to read it ever so often, every few years to everybody. But that book does such a great job of describing exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
They're friends, but they're enemies. And kids need to know that it's okay to break away from that. It's not okay to be treated badly. So anyway, it's not an easy fix. I'm not even coming up with a really good solution other than to say sometimes as school counselor, it makes us all feel better to know exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about because we've all been there. We've all done it, and it is so difficult to fix. But I think you address it during the school year before, and I've already addressed it this year before. Yeah, I know it's starting to raise its ugly head already, but start addressing it. So there,
I think my rubber meets the road for those. Yours is the Frenemy and the My Secret Bully book. I think my rubber meets the road for girl drama is new counselors, just what you said. I just want to reiterate what you said. When the doe-eyed, sweet little niblet comes to you and says that she's being bullied, use caution, proceed with caution. It may very well be that she comes out clean as a whistle, but use caution because it may very well be that she is the ringleader and the stink stirrer. So don't just go in head first believing everything that she tells you. Just, launch.
It is hard. It is hard. The whole bully issue is so very hard because often, and listen, we have a no bully policy at our school, and I don't know that we've ever hit it harder than we have this year. We are hitting it so hard, and we are having that. That's another lesson the county, my district said you will do, and we did. They know that they can file harassment charges. And there is true bullying going on. But then you have this happened. You have a parent call. My kid's being bullied, and it is literally the bully's parent call.
Yeah.
One. So when we look at what their definition of bullying is, it was his excuse for torturing kids. One kid had got in front of him in the lunchroom. Well, that's not bullying. That was a bad choice that kid made. So when we went through all of the scenarios, and I think explaining over and over to parents as well as students what bullying really is, because having that definition of what it is important too. But we're taking a very strong stance against, which I'm so happy and proud, because that no kid deserves to be bullied. But sometimes it's hard. That's not as easy as it just sounds,
Right.
And I think all school counselors know that. All right.
My other rubber meets the road. Not done. I just let you keep talking because I don't want to get involved in girl drama right here. So I just let you keep talking.
I'm feeling it right now.
My other one is use wisdom here, but there is value. We have found value in getting the girls together and doing a small group. I've got one going right now. The teacher reached out to me and said, do you have anything that you could do for girl drama? I said, as a matter of fact, I do. When I do a girl drama small group, I am very direct, and it's not sweet and sugary spice and everything nice. When I do a girl drama group, I'm very direct, and I don't let them get by with things. We're not talking over each other. One person's talking at a time, and I am the drill sergeant, which is different from my personality.
Yeah.
I don't let them, for example, when they came to my office for the first time a few weeks ago, they were running down the hall like a herd of buffalo. And most of the time, I'm like, okay, well, it's the first time
They're
they're coming.
excited.
They're excited to be here. And I said, no, ma'am. I said, y'all are going to walk back to the end of the hall and you're going to try this again. We're not running down the hall like a herd of buffalo. And so they tried it again. And again, it was not up to the standard that I felt it should be. So I sent them back again, and they came in, and it was different. You know, they were excited to be there, but then they realized we're getting down to business here. Now we still have fun, and it was a great time when they got in there, but I was very strict on the rules.
Well, because what you're bringing is the exact relationships. You're still got the as the queen bee wannabes. You still got the queen bee and the wannabes. And so if you're not in charge of the meeting, she will be.
Exactly.
So, and not to hawk our own wares, but one of our biggest sellers that we, I guess it is the biggest seller, possibly.
It is.
Small group, sure, is the cleaning up relationships. It's all about cleaning up our relationships.
Well, and it's so interesting because this year and the previous year, well, when we compare it to the first year we had it, it really started picking up. The sales started picking up around March, April, maybe late February, which was the normal time that we would see some of these relationships start to happen. Well, the past 2 years, it has hit it heavy in September and October. We're seeing it start earlier and earlier. So I don't know if we're becoming more aware as counselors, which is a wonderful thing, that we're being more proactive from the start. I don't know if people are more in tune. I don't know if we're talking about bullying more, and so it's created a larger awareness. Whatever the case is, we're selling it faster, sooner.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of what we're seeing with all kinds of behaviors. I think that has all ramped up. We can't say that didn't happen post pandemic. Is all behaviors have ramped up. We were headed that way, and it just kind of put it in acceleration mode.
Yeah.
All right.
I cannot go any further until we address another elephant in the room.
Please.
It is your earring. It is cracking me up. It's, for those of you that can't see, it's like the feathered earrings, and there is one phalange that is like an outlier.
Phalange.
Yes, and it's hanging out there, and your head gets to bobbing, and that
gets to flying.
And do you see how
these are my favorite earrings in the whole world, and
they are adorable.
They went with me on my trip, and the phalange, as you call it, the little chicken wing that is hanging out, it looks a little bit better. But yes,
it does look a little better.
Hilarious. I tried to fix it today.
Okay. It may need a trim. Like, I think,
thank you. A hair
just
trim.
Like I cut your hair at ASCA, I think
these are actually my eyelashes. These are actually my eyelashes. They're so thick and heavy that I cut them off. I trimmed them. Please don't be jealous. Or they could be my eyebrows. All right, moving along to topic 2.
Topic 2. Is this me?
I'm ready with it.
I'm ready now. I'm ready.
Do it.
So, what would you do if your administrator created everything that you're supposed to do, created a schedule for you, told you where to be, when to be, what to be working on? It's a daily schedule, and you just get to work and you're handed your schedule of what to do. You had no say in it. What would you do?
Oh my goodness. Well, you can imagine what I would do.
I can't imagine what you would do. This is all like your lessons, your small groups have been decided for you.
Oh my goodness. Well, see, that is poor leadership, because there was no collaboration. It was a dictatorship instead of a collaboration between the professional school counselor, which is what they went to school for, and then the administrator. They need to be collaborating together and working together. And so it's a misuse of what a school counselor is capable of, because that school counselor should be looking at that data and seeing what small groups need to take place and where the time needs to be spent. Unfortunately, that sounds like it's going to be an issue where my rubber meets the road on this would be I would pull out the inappropriate jobs that ASCA has already typed up for you and ready to go. And I would have a sit down and really advocate for a it sounds like there's an issue of control on that administrator's part. I don't know who the administrator is, but it sounds like there's a control issue, and that administrator may be missing out on that valuable person that is a school counselor because they're trying to micromanage everything. It sounds like they probably would do everybody else that way too. But I would be advocating for myself with time and data and all the things that you could do. If there's a supervisor, I'd be, asking their advice. But as we know in education, you really get who you get as that administrator. And bottom line is they are your direct supervisor. That's your line. I don't know. Some school systems may see their counselor as their administrator of all the counselors as their direct line. So I don't know this person has any other recourse other than to really have a sit down first with that principal. If that doesn't work, I would try to advocate other avenues, but I think you're going to end up doing what that principal asks you to do unless you can convince other people otherwise, them and other people.
I think I think that was so well said. I think you hit so many different, so many great points that you made just then. I think also if you do try a conversation first, or if you don't want to try a conversation and you're just, I don't know the relationship between you and your administrator. And I don't know the personalities involved here, but if a conversation can happen, I think that is the best first step. But secondly, like you said, your principal is your direct supervisor. And so I would do it and I would make the most out of it. I would collect as much data as you can collect. I would put it into SCUDA or whatever use of time analysis you're using to show here at the end of month 1 or month 2, here's what my use of time looks like. Here's what ASCA says it should look like. And here's an idea. Here's a solution. One thing I've learned is administrators don't want to be presented with a problem without a solution. So if you can go in armed and ready with 1, 2, or 3 possible solutions and let them choose which solution here do you like, you're still giving them the control if it is a control issue. And it could be a lack of awareness. I don't know how long this person has been a counselor. I don't know if this is their first year. And so the principal feels like it's their job to help them and guide them. It could just be a miscommunication. And you don't know, like if it is a first year counselor, you may not know the situation of the counselor that was there before you. So, the administrator may be thinking that they're helping, and you see it as a slap in your face, or, but I do think a conversation would take care of a lot of these misunderstandings.
Maybe, you would hope.
You're right. Maybe.
Okay. Moving right along to the next topic. 'Tis the season. We call it the scary season, where we are. And so someone had posted about seeing more students who were just afraid during this time of month. And we see things that are age appropriate and fun. And then we see some things that are really darker and more, not age appropriate, and some of it's just downright not age appropriate for anybody. I mean, it's just bad stuff. And so more than ever, these things are popping up for kids to get a hold of and to watch and to see, especially around this time. And I have had more conversations this year about students who it's not appropriate to watch the level of horror and bludgeoning and evil that they can't comprehend, a lot of them, between that reality and not reality. And even as my kids who are more prone to darkness and to that depression, that state of depression, if they are drawn to this, and this is what I tell parents, that we think that maybe they could handle it, but not everybody's made equal. And so what you may see as not non, I mean, it's just a rite of passage, these horror films or whatever. Some kids take that and it drags them down into a dark place that they are desperate to get out of. And it's not a funny thing. It's a very scary thing, because I've seen kids be so down into this dark place and these dark movies and these horror films and these, just this, and it's in the games and it's everything, and their dark music. If they're surrounded by that constantly, that unhealthiness in their brains, then it's really hard to dig them back out of that. And I really, and this year more than ever, have started just being very open about cautioning parents. Again, they're going to go on past me, so I won't be dealing with it. But I have seen the high school side of this, where kids are so deep into this darkness and sadness and depression. They need light, or some kids just need, they don't need any more darkness.
Yeah.
There's enough. They can't handle it. So I just, I would have open call. If a student is watching, they're scared because of stuff that they're being exposed to, that might be a conversation to have with parents and say, kids aren't able to stop it. You need to help stop this.
Well, and I think as the gatekeepers of the social and emotional, it is our responsibility to do this for the sake of the kids, to have these tough conversations with the parents. And, we were talking over the past couple of years, whenever I've had students who have gone through the suicide, they've threatened suicide, and we have to call in the parents. Well, in that amount of time where we don't leave them alone, so they stay in there with me, and we're having a conversation, just, lighthearted conversation until their parent comes and get them. I've been asking things like, what do you do when you're at home? And two conversations stand out in my head where they talked about a specific show. In both situations, it was an anime show. And so at first I was like, oh, okay, well, tell me more. And I had my guard was not up. I just was really just wanting more information. So the more they started talking about it, the more I realized this is not appropriate for a child to watch. And so I looked it up, and no, it absolutely was not. It was not something that a child should be watching in both situations. So when the parent got there, I asked the parent, I said, are you familiar with what they're watching? And they said, oh, yeah, both of them. 2 different times said, oh, yeah, it's just that Japanese cartoon stuff. It's harmless. And I had to say, but it's not harmless. And I really would challenge you to look further into it, because I think it's important that you know what they're watching. So I think we do have to have those conversations.
Yeah. And I think that because there's harmless animes everywhere, but they weren't really aware of the sexual nature for these little ones. And what we know,
violent,
yes.
I mean, trafficking. I mean, it was all the things wrapped up into this one.
And it's wrapped up in its kid stuff. So I think one of the speakers we've had on our show before has said that there is so much these kids who are into pornography, and I'm talking, and like I had a third grader who came to me. I'm addicted to pornography, and of course, when they're saying things that no kid that age should say or know, so it's we've gone from scary to other types of things, but it's all inappropriate things that kids watch. But this speaker said to us that it's almost like a child has been molested.
Wow.
Those same signs that a kid displays when they have been molested, if their minds are not ready. Now, I'm not saying it's to that degree. What I'm saying is that some of those same things, they can't process all of that sexuality and violence and everything. So anyway, it's just unbelievable it's in every kid's hands now. So of course, without monitoring, I don't know. We don't know the answers to that other than parent awareness, and we've talked about that before.
But I do think it may be something good if you have a counselor newsletter or a counselor corner on the newsletter or something. Maybe just a warning that, hey, it's spooky season, and just a heads up to be mindful of what your child is watching. And, they may allow spooky stuff in their house, but it also may be a warning to the people that are not okay with that to double check on what their kids are watching or have that conversation.
Well, and even if you are, what's the developmental age of that child? And not only, but what I would also say is not only the developmental age of the child, because be aware, we need to be aware of the developmental ability of a child's mind, but not only the developmental age, also the personality of that child. If I have a middle schooler, they may developmentally age be able to watch a certain kind of movie developmentally, but then their personality is so drawn to be depressed, and that just is, fire on top of fire, and it can be scary for parents.
Going back to my high school computer programming class when it was like the Apple IIe,
Yes.
But it's my teacher always said, garbage in, garbage out. And that applies to so much more than just computer programming. But, if you watch stuff that's damaging, then, damaging stuff comes out sometimes, even
there's enough violence and all of that in real life without having to add all the violence. And anyway, so it does affect us. We're all of these things. It's just amazing the things that, and it's all been, as we say, escalated after they were home 2 years with their devices, and so it's just kind of escalated this. So this was an issue, Laura, that I thought was really interesting, and it was a teacher, and I think this was an Ask a Thread, so probably a lot of our listeners saw this. But I think it was a school counselor asking about the appropriateness of this school counselor being bypassed when social services were called for a student. So what would you say to that?
Oh, gosh. Okay. This may not be what this counselor wants to hear, but I would say kudos to that teacher for doing exactly what we train them to do. And that is, as a mandatory reporter, it does not have to go through us. It's always nice whenever we do know about it. But a few weeks ago, I had a teacher call me after school. She said, hey, it just dawned on me. She said, I called and made a report today, and I probably should have told you first. I said, no. I said, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. I said, thank you for letting me know, but you did exactly what you were supposed to do, because, we're, as mandatory reporters, that teacher they have to be on that report. They have to be the one to make that report. So,
and just because they tell you doesn't put them off the hook. If there's a school counselor who lets that slip, their minds, that teacher does not get off the hook. So I think for this person, having a system in place, maybe when you train the teachers, or you go back now and you talk to the teachers and reiterate that they are mandatory reporters, but that, if they make a report it's very important. I do think it is very important that the school counselor be aware of that, because we have other pieces of the puzzle, and that could go a long way in what we need to do to be helping that child.
Yes, I do. I do agree with that. But I also would say that when you call into Department of Human Resources, DFACS, whatever it's called in your state, we are supposed to be guaranteed a level of anonymity. I can't say that word.
Anonymity.
And the teachers have that supposed right too. Now, the reality is it may not always be anonymous. It may not always be protected. And
Right.
it's the nature of our job that we have to be okay with that. But your teacher is guaranteed, supposedly, that anonymity
yes.
as well. And so it is just a courtesy if they let you know, because like you said, we do know other stuff sometimes, and sometimes we don't. It's a good place to start with building our knowledge, having that kid on our radar.
That is a very good point. Very good point. May I continue on with the social services?
Yes.
This is another thread.
Okay.
This was another thread, but it's still dealing with social services, and I thought you would find this very interesting. It's where the principal had actually found out when the principal came back to school the following day that a report had been made by the school counselor. The principal was not happy that social services had been called, and he set up a meeting, if I remember reading this, or he was going to set up a meeting, or she, or whatever, with the family and the school counselor to meet. Yeah.
Oh,
so
my. If you're
Yeah.
listening, you couldn't see my face just then, but I reacted with a facial expression, wide eyes and wide mouth, because that's a doozy.
That is a doozy. Talk about really not understanding the process. It sounds like that administrator. It's not our job to say whether or not this happened or did not happen. It's just if there is a level of doubt, or if it's been reported to us, that's just what we do. Better safe than sorry. But at no point should it should never be, well, we're going to work this out.
Right.
We're going to meet with the family, and we're going to work it out, because that's not our job to figure it out. It's not our job.
Well, I don't know. Again, I don't know what the relationship is between the counselor and the administrator. I don't know if the meeting actually happened. Was this counselor saying, "Oh my goodness, listen to what happened," or was it a "What do I do? We're about to have this meeting," or "My principal wants me to call this meeting"? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I think it was just the principal set up a meeting, and I don't think the meeting had happened yet, but the principal had set up a meeting, or what should they do, kind of, if I'm remembering that correctly. But I probably am not remembering that correctly. But that's the gist of it, if you will, was
Okay.
that the people didn't approve. Well, to begin with, nobody has to approve or not approve. It doesn't matter. And then the second part is that is totally inappropriate to sit down with the family that you have turned into DHR to work something out. That's not why the call was made, or shouldn't have been made, because there was any kind of, you're not investigating, and it's not because you're angry at them or anything else. So
Well, my line is always, I will not apologize for doing what I'm required to do to keep a child safe. And at the end of the day, if the family comes through the investigation squeaky clean, then that's great for everybody.
yeah.
But what if even the families that you think, oh, there's absolutely nothing going on, they're pillars of the community. I mean, we don't know what goes on in that house for real. And it's not our job to investigate. It's not our job to do the digging.
No.
And that goes with we are mandatory reporters if we have a suspicion. It's not our job to investigate, no matter what.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, I think that she's just really in a predicament there. But I
Yes.
think there needs to be some knowledge
Yeah.
gained by the administrator about what that process is and what it should look like, because that would really make a counselor think twice about making a report, and we shouldn't have to think twice about making a report. Again, that's not our, we're not there to investigate. So what happened? So that is really, I thought that was like, I knew your face would do that.
Yes, and I really feel for that counselor, but I do hope that the counselor has that relationship with their administrator to say, hey, can we sit down and just hash this out before we make this call to this family? I just want to tell you where I'm coming from. And it could just be, the administrators, I believe 99% of administrators are doing the best that they can do with the information that they have and the knowledge that they have. And so
Yeah.
are we. And it takes both of us. And if they don't understand where we're coming from, then, they do make these decisions because they believe it's their job. And it's our job to just come alongside them and say, hey, here's the other part of the story. Here's the other side. And, let's come up with a solution together. I hope they have that relationship.
Well, I hope so too. If they don't have that relationship, then they need to say, look, you could be interfering with an investigation and it could cost you your job.
Well, and if you don't feel comfortable having that conversation, call the DHR DFACS person and see if they will have that conversation with the administrator and, see if you can talk to them and say, hey, is this okay for us to have a meeting with the family? Just get clarity. And if they say no, then I don't know, maybe they'd call and say, hey, Mr. Administrator, please don't have a meeting until we get a chance to talk to the family. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, wow. School counselors have such a, oh my goodness, what a job we have to take in. You never know what a day is going to bring. I mean, you walk in that door and the best thing you can do is to have those plans for the day. And then you just never know. You really don't ever know. We say we try to be proactive and not reactive, but at the end of the day, you never know. And so we hear these stories and, it's just unbelievable.
Well,
So
I think a lot of these have come down to educating your staff, educating your administrator. And that's why weeks like National School Counseling Week are so important and valuable to let people know what you're doing, that you're not just sitting in your office looking on Pinterest, but you're actually, calculating your use of time, or you are looking through data and finding ways that you can help. So use those weeks, use the newsletter, use whatever you can to bring awareness and advocate for your job. Have those conversations on the front end with your principal. That's why the administrator conference is so important, so that you can sit down and say, hey, here's how I used my time last year. Here's how I want to use my time this year. But that's a whole other podcast, I know, but just advocate. A lot of this comes down to advocacy for your role.
And being proactive, as we said, be proactive before you get into some of these situations. But anyway, now can we talk about our trips?
I was hoping that we could. I want to hear all about where you went.
I am not going to tell you all about it, but I am just going to say that went to Colorado over, and it's been 2 years since we have flown. It's been since COVID that we have. No, I have flown with you.
Well, I thought maybe you meant you and your husband.
Me and my husband. That's true. Me and my husband. So we flew out to Colorado, and first time I had been to the Rocky Mountain National Park, and I cried. It is amazing. I will say a couple of things. Denver is like the healthiest city registered. That's what is one of the things it's known for, besides smoking pot. But they sell that everywhere. It's like the country mouse had gone to the city and then we went to the Rocky Mountains. But anyway, it's a very healthy eating place. So I always felt very pressured when we were at restaurants because they were getting like tree bark and they had on their hiking clothes. And yet I had squeezed into the same Columbia wear that they had, but it was just a show because I literally was just downing the waffles at every opportunity. Anything bad for you, I was eating. I think I gained 6 pounds. Nobody gains weight when they go hiking in the Rocky Mountains, but I did because I was eating like an Alabamian. Sorry for those healthy eaters in Alabama, but I was eating like a large majority that Southern fried sugar, and it was good. The food was good, but it is a healthy city. It is a very healthy city.
I need
Close to your Dollywood.
Well, I was going to say we went to Dollywood and I cried.
Because you go every weekend to Dollywood.
Yep. We went and my principal was there. So I knew she was going, and her son and my girls are like, they shut the park down. They were like the only people on the Tennessee Tornado ride. So the only ones, and they just kept letting them ride and ride, not even get off, just continue to ride. And we shut the park down.
So they had a ball. And then you went right on and stayed the night in a hotel somewhere just to let your kids swim and play with your kids.
I met my sister and her kids. And so that was fun. We stayed at the Drury Inn. I don't know how the Drury Inn does it, but it's very reasonably priced, number one. Number two, they have popcorn all day, every day. So you can go get bags of popcorn. And so I had my Diet Coke. I had to have Diet Coke, which was instead of Diet Dr. Pepper, which I normally drink, but I'll make accommodations. So we had endless Diet Coke and endless popcorn. Then they do dinner. So the kids were in heaven because you had your choice of a hot dog, nachos. It was a buffet, which I know some people are like, oh, gag. But no, not us. That's my standards. That's where my standards are. A buffet with hot dogs, nachos, and pulled barbecue and a salad. That's
and in Denver there was a buffet, and it was tofu bark, some kind of helio bowl.
Oh wow!
And, these are healthy people.
So look at your level, like my level.
There's nothing like that. Well, I felt like I really wanted. I told Philip, my husband, I said, we have got to do better. We have got to do better. I don't know, eat a salad every once in a while. Yeah. But we had a ball. We had so much fun. It's fun to go different places.
It is.
Have different, you have these different cultures. Even though it's the same culture, you're all, it's just different, where you are. Food's different. The way they talk is different. Just different. Differences need to try. Like you'd think that you and I had went as our world travelers. We literally went a couple states over, and we are like it's a whole different planet. But it is. Sometimes
it is because we do live in a bubble here in Alabama, and so when we get out of the bubble,
and in Tennessee, if you're in Tennessee, you're still in that bubble.
It's a bubble. Yes. Yeah. And so we go other places, and when you say country mouse, city mouse, that is exactly what it's like. Anytime you and I get above the Mason-Dixon line or west of the Mississippi, then we're like, what in the world? What are we going to do?
We don't have sweet tea. What are we going to do? So, yes, it's fun to travel and do different things. But fall break is over, and here we go. We're going to power through until Thanksgiving now.
We can do it.
We have no choice.
Can't we? Can't we do it?
I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope. Well, I was just going to say that I hope that if you are the ones that had any of those questions, I hope that this brought some clarity of what not to do. Do the opposite of whatever we say. That's going to be your first cautionary tale. But I do hope that you understand that, these things, they're out there and they happen. If you're going through a similar situation, somebody else is too. And that's the beauty and the power of finding somebody that you can just kind of bounce these ideas off of. So I'm grateful for you. I'll say all that to say I'm grateful for you, Kim.
I was waiting on that.
And I'm waiting on the reciprocation.
I'm still a little burnt over the whole ball game, but I'll get over it.
Well.
But yes, I'm that person. Golly, school counselors, I just cannot, I want to love on all of them.
I know.
I want to nestle them up and give them this great big hug, because only we know what we have to do and see and hear. So
That almost sounds like Smokey Bear. Only you
can predict forest fires.
Oh my goodness. Well, you can find us on Facebook. You can join our Facebook group. You can find us on Instagram. Please rate and review our podcast because it helps other people find the podcast. And is there anything else? You mentioned that we have a relational aggression small group out there. You can find us on Teachers Pay Teachers, and you can find a lot of great counselors on Teachers Pay Teachers. So if you find something great, let us know.
I would like to end, Laura. You know how you do a great dolphin call?
Yeah.
Well, it is
with Rocky Top.
No, I do not want you to end with Rocky Top. It is mating season.
Oh gosh.
The elk were bugling, and it sounds something like this.
Okay, I'm sad to tell you that it went silent. So try again.
The elk mating call.
It is like that pitch won't register on Zoom. Try again. Drop it an octave lower.
Oh.
That's a little better. When you go high, it cuts out.
It's high.
Like a dog whistle.
I can hear it. I think you're at that age where you don't hear those sounds.
That's it. Hey, if you're listening and you hear high pitched, please comment and let us know if it's my hearing or if I'm missing out. I could be missing out on a whole tone. My whole life, I could be missing out on a whole tone. And this podcast helps you learn things like that.
I have elk at my door now, so I'm going to have to explain. I got some explaining to do.
Maybe I'm simply not an elk, and that's why I can't hear it.
Could be.
Well, I hope that wherever you are, I hope that the elk are not throwing themselves in front of your car or whatever based on Kim's elk call just now. But if so, let us know. We want to know that too. Take a picture and tag us in it if the elk have now come up to eat out of your hand.
Oh, they weren't eating. Don't look.
Wow. Now we need to give a disclaimer, not suitable for small children.
No.